I could describe a moment, and this is the greatest moment that any coach can ever feel. Fighter too. You're in the cage, UFC title, just finished 5 rounds. Bruce Buffer's making the announcement. You got Joe Rogan in there. Or Joe Rogan's not in yet.
Is there a particular moment you're thinking of now?
Yeah, it's 2-2. I mean, it's a split decision fight, and they're like, Demetrius Johnson, 48-47. Henry Cejudo, 48-47. Demetrius Johnson going for his 12th defense of his title. Has never been done. He's the GOAT, right? Henry Cejudo already knocked him out 2 years earlier in 1 minute. That moment right there is huge.
Thing that you don't want to say or talk about, just so I can make sure that I talk about it during the show?
No.
Captain America's in the house. Eric, how's it going? How's it going? Long time, bro.
It's been a while, but thank you for having me. Great to be back.
I say a long time, but I mean, I saw you a couple of hours ago down at Henzo's. Came down to give the boys a few moves. If you saw Edmund's face, bro, during that session, he kept on looking over at me and going, like that move, did you see who was there after? And they were seeing him practice it while we were just talking, and he was just sitting there mimicking the move after, even when we were talking after, bro. Like, that's why I love it when I have boys, like my boys here from different kind of, you know, places and countries, and even like wrestlers and jiu-jitsu. I like taking people there because one thing that you can tell them can open their eyes to a whole scope of shit that they never even thought of, right?
You go down that rabbit hole.
That's it, right? It's a whole different story. Do you want to tell everyone, because I just think this is a hilarious story, and you know I'm going to get to it, how we met?
Ooh, yeah. That was an interesting one because because we were at last year, we were here for UFC, Abu Dhabi, and my fighter, Paulo the Eraser Costa, Mr. Secret Juice, was getting ready for Hamzat, to fight Hamzat Chimaev, and I had went to ADX.
Yeah, ADXC.
While we were here in Abu Dhabi, and that's when I met you. I had already met Chris Fade at the NBA game, and then I met you guys at the ADX. Well, there was a couple of things that happened that day because
that's what I'm saying.
You had a guy with you that started talking crap.
No, he wasn't with us.
I know,
but just you thought that.
I thought he was with you, so. We're talking about Paulo, and he's like, Paulo's a pussy.
Yeah.
His elbow's not even hurt. And I was like, how would you know? I just saw the doctor cut him open, and he's like, it's fake. Paulo's running from him. I'm like, no, he's not. And I'm just thinking, if he's with Chris and AJ, I'm like, I'm just gonna let him say it.
Yeah.
But I was like getting really mad. But I was like, well, he's your friend, so I'm not gonna do anything. Let him speak. And then 2 seconds later, you're like, who is that guy? I'm like, you don't know this guy? I was like, I was ready to I was going to get upset. About 2 minutes later, we're getting some water or something to drink, maybe something to eat. And you bring out the Doha. And I was like, well, let me taste that. Let me test it out.
For those who don't know, let me explain. So the Doha is basically, it's an Emirati way of smoking. It's pure tobacco. You have a pipe, a little Sherlock Holmes pipe. You pack it in, take 2 puffs, gives you a little head rush for about 10 seconds, and then you're good. So Eric was like, well, I'd have a bit of that.
Yeah, I've had some strong things before, but you know what? It took me half a puff, and I just about collapsed.
Yeah.
My legs gave out. I'm lightheaded. I couldn't stand. And then you had to, I think you guys carried me
to carry you to the bench.
To the bench. And I'm like slumped over, and I'm like this, and I'm laying down, and I look up. And then that guy that was messing with me over Paulo, he's got 2 or 3 more friends, and they're like pointing at me. So then I'm like, oh, I can't be looking like a pussy. I got to sit up.
So I
sit up. and I'm hurt, and I'm trying to look tough again.
Dude,
But that was like the strongest
bro, in
thing
my
I've
head,
ever had.
it was like, you know, the Chappelle show. Like, it was at this moment that Eric knew he fucked up. Like literally, the look on your face, you looked up at me, and it was just like, you know, like just a kitten just looking for help, and I was just like, oh shit, I felt so bad, bro, because I was like, it's not gonna affect
You were
him.
telling me,
yeah,
this isn't that strong.
yeah.
I was like, all right, let me hit it.
What a way to meet, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I like the way we met, because I feel like we bonded
Right there.
right there. What did you think of the event?
I loved it. I think it was, I couldn't believe it was so packed, you know, for people to watch jiu-jitsu or grappling. That kind of doesn't happen in the U.S. as much. So, man, UAE and Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they love their jiu-jitsu.
They love it.
It's amazing. And you know what? I was Mr. Fawad, I call him Fawad White.
Yeah.
You know, the Dana White of the Middle East from Palm Sports and UAE Warriors. I was like, there's not enough wrestling. You couldn't pull guard, I don't believe. So you had to get takedowns, but not a lot of people were getting takedowns. So I was like, you gotta teach these guys wrestling. He's like, we're gonna put it in the school. So that was awesome to hear that it's gonna be put in the, I guess, curriculum. Hopefully, if that gets put in the curriculum, wow.
As far as I know, it's already there. But I was talking to Henzo about this as well. There are more jiu-jitsu practitioners in this country than anywhere else in the world. Black belts.
Henzo's like
here.
the pioneer of that. He's like the Caesar of.
But dude, do you know what it is? His character is everything. He's just like jiu-jitsu's favorite uncle. Like, do you know what I mean? Even the next ADXC, I was backstage with Aljo and T-Rex, and Henzo comes in, and this is before Aljo's fight, and he's just sitting there showing us moves, choking us out and stuff. And I'm just like, and you know how Henzo talks. He's like, look, he do that kind of thing. And we were just like, this guy's so cool, dude. He just literally came in, was open with us, showed them some stuff, and then just disappeared into the sunset.
He's definitely charismatic. He's got that riz.
He's Brazilian Lebanese. That's why he has the Lebanese in him. He's half Lebanese. Not a lot of people know that.
I did not know that. That's news.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why he's got it. He's got the worst of both worlds, bro. That's what it is. But bro, you got so much going on. I don't even actually know where to start. But one thing I do want to start with is your own wrestling, because obviously you've coached. I mean, the names are endless, and we'll get to those names. But where did you find your love for wrestling, and when did you figure out, hold on, this is something that I actually want to do?
I think from the first day I started wrestling, I never stopped, which was my freshman year in high school. But I used to get a lot of fights, a lot of trouble, and the assistant principal pulled me aside and was sick of me being sent to his office and said, no more fighting. I want you to show up at the wrestling room. So at that time, I didn't know what wrestling was. I knew WWF with Hulk Hogan and pro wrestling. So I go to that lineup, or I go to the wrestling room, and I'm looking for the ring. I'm like, where's the chairs?
Where are the ropes?
People?
Like, what's going on?
Where are the ropes? And wasn't there. And then they actually had lined up. And I'm like, from first to the last, you got to wrestle. And if you get a takedown, you go against the next guy and next guy. And I took like the first few guys down until the guys started getting too big. And the coach paid attention to me. He's like, oh, you got something. And that was my 9th grade year. And I was actually too small to wrestle. You had to, the lowest weight class was 103 pounds. And you had to weigh 88, and I was 80.
Wow.
So I didn't even wrestle. I didn't get to compete of my freshman year because I was too small. My sophomore year was only 90, but I could compete. And then by my senior year, I was in the state finals. After that, I chose to walk on at Arizona State. At that point, Arizona State was ranked #1 in the nation. So like, I'm going where the best are.
Yeah.
And I left home in Florida and went to Arizona, and I went to Arizona State, and there I was on a team called the Sunkissed Kids, which is a freestyle team. And I think by my 3rd year, I made the national team for Team USA, and I also was a 3-time university national champ. And then I entered, I made the Pan American team. I took a silver medal there, which qualified me to be the first resident at the Olympic Training Center.
Wow.
So I was the first freestyle resident. There was me and 7 other athletes were accepted to be the first freestyle athletes to live and train at the Olympic Training Center. And then from there, I joined the military, and I was in the military for 10 years, became a captain, and I taught hand-to-hand combat for the Army as one of my last jobs called Modern Army Combatives.
Very nice.
So it was a lot of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu actually
Yeah.
involved. The Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was the basis of the Modern Army Combatives.
Because Hoist trains a lot of the army out there, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's they came to Fort Carson and taught Jorge and
wow.
Gracie, and I think it was Hoist Gracie's younger brother, not Henzo,
Yeah.
Halleck.
Nice. How important do you think wrestling is? Because when you hear about MMA, and obviously right now, the UFC and that, everyone's talking jiu-jitsu. Not many people started talking wrestling until certain people came in and started promoting me. I had Aljo on for an episode, and when I was talking to him, he was telling me John Jones got him into wrestling.
Wow,
And I
into
was
wrestling or MMA?
Wrestling.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
I
was
knew
like,
he only started when he was a junior, I
Yeah.
believe. So
that's crazy
Yeah.
that you think that the wrestling goes back that far, because for us in the UK, we don't have wrestling like at all. It's not a school thing. It's not a university thing. It's just not a thing. It's a very American thing. And obviously Dagestan and that kind of that Russia and that world is very big. But in Europe, it's not big at all.
certain countries,
I mean, they have Greco wrestling and stuff in
Central
Greece.
Asia,
Yeah.
Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, they're really big into wrestling. Turkey, Iran, that's their number one sport.
Iranians are crazy, but they're also juiced up as hell, bro.
Which ones?
The Iranians.
Yes, but so is Dagestan. They can't even compete in the Olympics. Or Russia.
Russia is
They're banned from the
yeah.
Olympics. So there's no Dagestan or Russian. All the Russians were from Dagestan, and they're not allowed in the Olympics this year. I don't think it would matter. I think Team USA is gonna. I don't think they'll sweep, but we're gonna get a lot of medals. I think there's only 6 weight classes now for the men. I think we're gonna get a gold medal with Kyle Dake, Kyle Snyder, possibly Spencer Lee, and that's at least 3 right there. I think almost everybody's gonna medal.
You think so, yeah?
Team USA is that good, and we're reigning world champions for 2 years in freestyle now.
And you're heading there straight from here, right? After the fight?
After Figueiredo gets that title shot and takes out Chito Vera, first person to finish Chito Vera. He gets the title shot, then we'll go to Paris.
How do you think he's looking now? I mean, I was speaking to Dr. Dan about this before. Shout out to the team that's in the room there in the background. I don't know if you want to say who's here and what
Yeah,
they're
you know
doing.
what? So we have a great team. We have John Tasha from Colombia. He's planning to be a pioneer for Colombia and being one of the first guys in the UFC. Really good bantamweight, and we brought him out as a training partner for the God of War. We have Italo Alves here also for the second camp with us. He was helping us with jiu-jitsu for Paulo Costa as well. And he's here in Abu Dhabi and Dubai already. So we're actually staying with him at his house. So and then Dr. Rashid Fakir, he's been here with me for the last few months. He was one of the integral parts of the victory for Patricio Pitbull, who just fought in Northern Ireland a few months ago. He defended his world title, and the thing was the night before, he had a neck spasm because he had neck surgery he had 2 losses. He had a horrible neck. He fought without even having feeling in his arm. And he got neck surgery, and he's coming back in the day before the fight while he was nothing really. I think he just threw a punch and his arms went numb, both of them.
Oh, wow.
And he felt like he was paralyzed. And we called up Dr. Rashid. You remember the doctor's name who did the surgery? So Dr.
This is the day before the fight.
Day before, not the surgery wasn't the day before the fight, but
thought he came and did that Mr. Miyagi thing. Remember that?
that's basically what Dr. Rashid did. because we called up Dr. Muscatelli. Hey, we got to cancel this fight. What do we do? Because something happened. He's not feeling his fingers. He's in so much pain. And then he spoke with Dr. Rashid, and those two working together. You know, the next day he knocked out Jeremy Kennedy, and it was probably the greatest feeling he's ever had, because something like Patricio Pitbull to be champion for 10 years in his weight class, he went down a weight class, lost. He went up to 155 on 2 days' notice and lost there, both with the neck issues. And for him to come back, that just makes his legacy even better. You know, sometimes you're champion so long, it gets boring. And the perfect example is Demetrius Johnson. He was 10-time defending his belt, and they were cutting the weight class. So when he lost and then comes back, it just adds to his legacy. Sometimes that loss just makes you adds to your legacy and made him a better fighter. And for him to overcome that, where we just about canceled the fight, we actually called Mike Hogan up and said we're gonna have to cancel it, and he goes, "Let's just go to sleep and
go to sleep without a pillow on the floor. Sleep on the hard floor and see what happens the next day.
Go to sleep, and we'll talk in the morning. Tell us how you feel." And we got Dr. Rashid on him. We called up Dr. Muscatelli. It was like he's the best, one of the best in the world at fixing necks and neck surgery for that particular injury. And so is Dr. Rashid in helping putting them back together. And man, he went out there and got one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. You know, he even got hurt that round. He got knocked down in the round, came back, and the Pitbull of old, was awoken. And that was and that day Leandro Ego fought James Gallagher, and we got a title shot when we beat him. So now Leandro Ego's fighting for the world title against Patchy Mix in Bellator, and that's coming up. So I'll have with Patricio and Patrick Pitbull. They were world champions for my gym, first brothers in history, the Pitbull brothers. And then Leandro, if he wins, that'll be 3 world champions in Bellator from the same gym. So I couldn't be more proud of the Pitbull brothers down there in Brazil. We're all training at the Broad Street Global Empire down there. And
we need to talk in detail about Broad Street, because it's complicated as shit, but it's not. To somebody who doesn't know what Broad Street Global is, or Empire is, because it's changed now. It's bigger now.
Well, I called it the Broad Street Global House, but I kind of elevated it,
promote the world, promotion, and everything in it, right?
I gave it a promotion.
What exactly is it?
Well, they're a private equity firm out of South Carolina, and you know they flew me out there, and everything they told me and everything they touched just turns to gold out there, and that's what I'm about. All I see is gold. I'm always striving for gold, so it made sense for us to team up and share brand recognition. They're one of the first private equity firms to do that with high-level, world-class athletes. And
but what are they doing for the athletes? Like, what is their role in everything now?
So we have a house down in Brazil, an empire, right? And I've brought athletes from Mongolia, from Kazakhstan, from Colombia. Anywhere else, Dan? Russia. You know, I was calling it Natalstan. Because if we can't go there, I'm going to bring them to us. And, you know, that's the idea, is to make Natal, where we're at, is like a hub. A lot of times, you know, I get this in the U.S. I have a fighter, I think he was at another gym, and he's like telling me about this fighter that he trains with. He's like, "Captain, this guy is amazing. He's from Chechnya." And I said, "Man, you're so good." And he goes, "If you think I'm good, you should see the guys back home. They're 10 times better than me." And they're like, they couldn't imagine that. I was like, "So why aren't they there?" And they can't get a visa.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was like, "Well, they can come to Brazil and get a visa easy."
Yeah.
So I was like, that made sense to me, because that they have the cheat code. A lot of their wrestling and control. It's not fun to watch, personally, unless you're fighting Conor McGregor and you're shutting somebody up.
Yeah.
But it shows how dominant that wrestling can be. And
do you find it not fun to watch because people say that about Khabib, and I'm like, I don't understand what you want. it's a fight. He's winning. Whichever way he does it, that's his business. Bro, it doesn't matter.
Well, here's the thing. He's so dominant. Demetrius was dominant. John Jones is dominant. When you're that dominant, and wrestling is a dominant sport in MMA, when you're that dominant, people want to see back and forth because the dominance leads to decisions, 3-round decision, 5-round decision. Sometimes there's a finish, but a lot of times there's not. And Dana, it's not me. I love wrestling. I come from wrestling. Dana White Contenders. If you wrestle on Dana White Contenders, you're probably not going to get in.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So it's not me saying it. The narrative says you need wrestling when you, I'm not saying don't train wrestling. The more wrestlers they take out of the game, if there's no wrestling in them, let's say they stop putting in Dagestani wrestlers and American and All-Americans, right? Wrestling's going to become even more important because when you get 2 strikers, who's going to be the one that's got more MMA?
Yeah.
Let's say you saw a little bit with Poatan and Israel. There was wrestling in there. You know, Israel was actually beating him in wrestling, and then he got caught on his feet. So Cesar Alameda fought a strike, and Cesar Alameda didn't have an easy path. He had a wrestler in his, not a wrestler in his path. He had a striker in his path that decided to wrestle him. Yeah. He was on his back for 2 rounds.
I agree with you, but essentially, this is what UFC was built on. Which style is more dominant? That's how the whole thing started. So
the answer is wrestling.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say I don't like Shaq because he only dunks. He's a giant guy who only dunks. That's his skill. Do you know what I mean? That's his. Like, you can't be like, I wish I saw more free throws from Shaq and 3-pointers. It's like, well, why?
Well, here it is.
You got Muggsy for those
You're saying,
things.
but wrestling isn't the dunk. The dunk is like a knockout if you're comparing it to MMA.
Yeah, but
the
you know
wrestling
what I'm saying,
is the free throw.
What I'm saying is when one guy has one thing very strong, I like that because it shows even more how good he is at that one thing. Like, do you know what I mean? So,
true.
I mean, you saw Ngannou against, I'm blanking now, French, Cyril Gane. They both went down to the floor. And then it was, what is this circus going on here, bro? It was like...
And that was 2 strikers.
See what I mean? So it's like...
It's okay then, 2 strikers wrestling. Yeah. That's exciting.
They're both as bad as each other. That's why. That's what's going on.
But one dominant guy against a guy who's never wrestled before?
I quite like it. I don't like change, and I like knowing what to expect, and I like it when people do that. I like striking, obviously. Like, who doesn't like a knockout? But I like watching Khabib. When people say, like, he's boring, I'm like, I don't see how. It's so smart.
It depends what country you're in. If you're in the U.S., they might not like it. If you're here, you do.
But surely also, your knowledge of fighting has something to do with whether you find that boring or not. Because somebody could say, oh, look at how that's boring. And I could say, if you know how he just crossed his legs together and slid up his hips and put him in that position, like if you know how smart that was, you wouldn't find this boring.
True.
If you're analyzing what he's doing, you're like, oh shit, the way he just got to his back from there, that's not normal.
But Americans are bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
Just bleed.
America.
We want blood. I mean, it comes from that's what I try to tell all my fighters. You got to be better at selling and promoting fights. So I start get them to watch WWE.
Vince McMahon by far is the best promoter I've ever seen in my life.
And WWE has been #1 in the U.S. for like 30 years. #1 program in the U.S. for 30 years. So we grow up
so
watching
much more. You can do so much more from it. Look at The Rock and these people. They are now making that much money from acting because of the character that they had in the WWE and the way they sold themselves. They didn't just sell themselves in wrestling. They sold themselves as a brand in general. So it kind of leaks on to everything else you're doing.
Everything else. And now the WWE and the UFC are under the same company, the same umbrella company, TKO. So
That's crazy.
It's almost the same. I can't wait till some of my fighters make that transition.
Yeah, right?
Triple C.
Yeah, who would you say, if all of the fighters that you coach could have a successful career, and I mean, let's take it back, forget injuries and this stuff, who do you think could have sold themselves the best as a WWE fighter out of the fighters that you've coached, who had that character that could have...
Triple C and Paulo Costa.
Costa for sure,
and Secret
dude.
Juice.
For sure.
Triple C. The Pitbull brothers, because there's brothers, and they're the baddest brothers
Be
in
like the
MMA.
Legion of Doom, right?
I like that. But they don't come from, they didn't grow up watching it like we did. You know, watching Rey Mysterio, watching Hulk Hogan, watching The Rock.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior, all of those
John
guys.
Cena,
Yeah.
the Ultimate Warrior, all these guys. They didn't grow up with, you know, Dr. Rashid used to do professional wrestling as well. He was, I believe he was Sting. And he trained with Ric Flair's
You trained with Sting and Ric Flair? No way, bro. Dude, that's my days. Like, I'm old, bro. Like, when people tell me, like, John Cena, I'm like, look, I don't know. I haven't seen any John Cena fights, but I'll tell you about Papa Shango and these guys, bro. Like, the old age, like Jimmy Snooker, Superfly.
Oh,
like, these
Superfly.
Yeah, Superfly.
Ricky the
Like,
Dragon
come on.
Steamboat.
Yeah. Those guys. You had
Coco
Jake,
Beware.
we had characters. We had a guy, Jake the Snake Roberts, who used to carry a snake in a bag and drag it onto the stage
DDP.
and stuff. Like, as far as Kane, like when Kane came in, that's when I kind of like The Rock and Kane and Stone Cold. That's when I was kind of like, life happened and I started figuring out like girls have titties and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like there's other things that I should be doing with my time, like than watching wrestling. But people, the new people, I can't look at it the same.
Well, so a funny story is I bring down these Kazakhstani guys. They're twins out of Kazakhstan. They're amateur world champions. Really good fighters. And I'm like, guys, you got to understand how to promote yourself. So I'm thinking maybe the Road Warriors, if you remember them. I'm like, they're like, we don't know any of that. All right. So I put it on YouTube and I go all the way back to like the Four Horsemen and Ric Flair. And I'm having them watching Ric Flair and they're looking at it.
They're looking at him like, what's
they're
this
looking
guy
at
on,
it and they're
bro?
shaking their head.
Yeah.
So then I go a little bit further to Hulk Hogan and then we get into The Rock. And then a little bit further into the WWE.
Show them Iron Sheik, and they're like, that guy I can do. Like,
well, they're not sold on it. And I'm like, guys, this is what Americans love. And they're like, I don't believe you, Captain. That they're not saying that, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah, you can see it.
Then I fast forward and got him all the way, and Ronda Rousey was fighting, I want to say, Vince McMahon's daughter. And The Rock was there. I'll say, okay. And now there's a UFC person, female, fighting in there. But then they panned the camera, and Dana White was standing up, going crazy and cheering.
No way.
And when they saw that, they were sold. Then they were like, Dana White really loves this. Then they believed me. Then they're like, okay. Now these guys, they have straight hair, right? They're from Kazakhstan, right? And they're saying they want an afro from who? Who was the guy? Like AJ McKee. They're like, we want our hair like AJ McKee. I'm like, you know, AJ McKee's black, right? They're like, we want dreads and we want his afro, kind of like he has that thing going. I'm like,
maybe I'm pushing you guys too far. We're not doing blackface here.
Like, to them, you don't have the hair for that. They go, after 5 months with us, they go back and they send me a video, say, Captain, we did what you said, or we did our hair. These guys have an afro. Bro, I don't know what they did to get it.
Do you know what's funny? I saw a video of some kids in Japan who got their hairs afroed, and they're into that. Because you know in Japan culture, the breakdancing and all that stuff, they got it. There's a way to do it.
They did
so
it.
You might see Cap with an afro in the next UFC. You never know, dude. He might pull it off.
I need to go to Turkey first for that to happen.
Right?
Get that hair transplant. I don't have enough hair to do that, but dope, bro. It's possible.
We'll do it. So these guys, do they pay the athletes, or do they contribute to in the house in Brazil? And that what do they contribute to? How does it work in that regard?
So we have them coming out. I mean, I have a driver. We have a house. I had an 8-bedroom house, 25 beds, 8-bedroom house, and I just moved to another one which has a pool now, 2 floors. And we have our driver. We train at the Pitbull Brothers twice a day. And
you give them all the support that's needed, not financial, so that stuff that they usually have to pay for to be able to go to that place.
Correct.
You guys cover that.
And you know, I'm counseling them on how we're going to get them in the UFC, because most of them don't understand how to promote themselves. They think, oh, I'm just going to get 5-0 and I'm going to get put in. I was like, well, there's 5 million people that think the same way. What is going to make you different? How are you going to be different? Why? how did I get Broad Street to notice me? Does everybody know me? I got glasses. I got an outfit here.
Okay, let's talk about that. No. We're not going to go past that, right? Let's talk about the drip, because that's something that I assume is important to you, right? Because I've never, apart from today when we were at Henzo's, and I think even then you took off the diamond earrings and the stuff. Like you came with some drip on allocated around your body. I've never seen you not like for example, if I'm in a crowd and you walk past, you're going to catch my attention, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, whether I'm going, what the hell is that guy wearing? Or because when I first met you, you were wearing a diamond studded outfit, top to toe, and the glasses. And I'm gonna admit, when I first saw you, I was like, hold on, what the fuck's going on there? Like before I even said a word to you, I was like, what's going on there? Now, me being the person who doesn't judge people or whatever, I was like, I need to find out what's going there. Do you know what I mean? So where did that come in? Where did you find it, that point where you're like, it's important for me to have my branded look or whatever?
Well, one thing is my father, I really don't ever think I saw my father out of a suit. He wore a suit. My dad, he was born in Colombia, moved to the U.S. when he was 33, excuse me. And I don't remember I can count on one hand how many times my dad was out of a suit. He was always dressed to the tens. And in MMA, everybody's so basic. So if I tell my fighters what they need to do, I want to show the example on how it's done. Like a couple of weeks ago, TV cameras came into my gym, and I go to my fighter, Ivan, and said, Ivan, get in front of that camera. Let them know who you are. He's like, no, I don't know. And I go, all right. I go over there and shoot a double leg on. No. So I go, I'll show you. I went over there. I shot a double leg on the guy. He had the mic, and I just went and picked him up. Nice. And then he started talking to me. I was like, you guys are too humble.
Yeah.
You got to be able to sell. So if I got to be the example and show them. And this has led to people noticing me, and I brought BioAccelerator has noticed me, and that's a stem cell company out of Medellin, Colombia. They reached out to me because they know who I am because of the look, and they said, hey, if you got fighters, this is a head trauma sport. We're trying to prevent CTE. You got any fighters available for stem cell treatment? It helps prevent CTE. It'll help you regenerate.
You should have said to them, see, I got a 95-year-old dude's knee inside me.
That's next. I got to give Eric Stoffers a call, the president.
Who lied on his CV when he put this in there.
I'll tell you what, we were the first MMA athletes to go down there. And Patricio Pitbull, I call him the first BioX man. And it kind of, it changed him. You get regenerated. You feel 18 again.
Dude, I heard, man. I mean, Rogan talks about it. A lot of people have said that stem cells is like the future. Like out here, there's only one place that's allowed to do it. And they're not cheap.
Well, the future is already happening.
Yeah.
And BioAccelerator has been with my fighters, Patricio, Patricky, Henry. You know, when Henry fought Marlon Moraes, he blew his ankle out on Wednesday. Blew it out, stepped on the mat. Somebody didn't tape the mat well in the UFC workout room. He blew his ankle out. We're like, we got to cancel the fight. And nope, the stem cells kicked in. He went out there. I was so nervous.
Dude, it's
Marlon Moraes goes out there chopping his legs to pieces, and I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna make it through this. And sure enough,
and the thing is, it works quick. Like
really
when Baz was here, so Baz Rutten is here for Karate Combat the last time when we were here. So I was like, look, I'll take you to this place, let them look, because he had torn his Achilles on one of the Karate Combats just running around the place. And he was, I don't know if you saw, but he was walking with a boot.
Yeah, I did.
A couple of days after, I took him to that thing, and they put exosomes straight into his thing. 2 days later, he was walking without a boot on. And let me just say something. Baz, there's something very wrong with you, my brother. If you see, the needle was like that big, dude, going into his Achilles, and this dude's just sitting there like that. Not even a flinch, nothing. And I remember the doctor looking at me like that, going... Like, you know, because they put the, what's that thing called where the baby You know when you have
Ultrasound.
the ultrasound. So they put the ultrasound to show the gaps where it's torn, so you can see the needle going in.
Yeah, it starts with an F.
No, ultrasound. Yeah, so he's putting the needle in, and he's not going like this. He's going and injecting it in. And this dude's just chilling there like that. And then I'm just like, Baz, like, yeah, don't. Baz Rutan's been through some stuff, and I don't want to know what's like his daughter just got married, and I remember commenting on his post. I was like, what a double-edged sword it must be to have Baz Rutan as your father-in-law. Like, that is not look, bro.
When we first went down to Bioaccelerator, Patricio Pitbull was getting it. They put it in his nose, and you have to lay upside down, right? And it's like for 45 minutes, so it can pass the brain barrier and help repair the brain. They don't do it like that anymore, but they did back then. And you cannot, if you swallow, you're swallowing like $100,000 worth of exosomes, right? So you can't, you're tilted back and you can't swallow for like 45 minutes. He was torture for him.
It's like his nose is like mine. I'd need 500,000 exosomes, and this one's a big motherfucking nose, bro. You have to go put that in there. Dude, that's crazy. But yeah, it's the future, man. It's the future. Honestly, I think healing-wise, they do say that maybe in like 30, 40 years, people are going to start living to 150, 170. I don't know.
How many years?
I don't know if I'd want to live that long unless I was still kind of... If they start making you young, yeah, cool. But I don't want to be 150, just like, you know, you reach 100 and then the next 50 years, you're kind of like just barely moving and getting around the place.
With some young girl you're like half dead and she's forcing you to sign over
right?
your will.
Yeah,
I saw a video like that. Did you see that?
No.
This Brazilian lady brought her dead uncle. He was dead in a wheelchair and trying to get him to sign, I don't know if it was something with the bank or will.
Sign the house off or whatever, yeah.
She's like picking this up. You gotta, and it's all on film.
Well, he's dead.
He's dead.
And she's like
trying to grab his hand. And so she ended up getting arrested.
Oh, wow.
But there's an actual video of this. I saw it yesterday.
What people will go through, honestly. I mean, to be honest, I might try it. If there's a big enough will going around, man, it's like it's going to get wasted. Like, do you know what I mean? At least I think it's probably better that he's dead than if he was alive and just about, do you know what I mean? Then that's kind of cheating him because he doesn't really know what he's signing, kind of thing. If he's dead, it's going nowhere, dude. You might as well at least try your luck, bro. Just see what happens.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Right? One of those ones. Let's talk about your relationship with Henry.
Yep. Yeah, I've been with Henry since 2004. And since the first day he touched down at the Olympic Training Center. And I was already at the Olympic Center. So I've been with Henry for 20 years. He's in Brazil right now at my house. So I had Paulo, Patricio, Leandro. We had that, and Henry he wants 12 weeks, and a lot of times, usually before he retired, when Henry had a camp,
it's a full camp.
It's full camp, and I'm there the whole time. But when he retired, I started venturing out and started.
You got to, dude. You got to carry on your
So that's when we started like the Broad Street Global House, and I had all these fighters down there. So now I'm kind of my time was split, and I had set him up with my boxing coach from the Pitbull brothers, Everton. So he was in good hands, and we had discussed, I want to be able to do both. Your camp and their camp, but it's at the same time. We had huge fights, both for world titles. And Henry's a business. Henry knows Henry's business. Henry is all business. Henry knows that when it comes that he wanted me for 12 weeks, but I wanted to go back and forth. He's like, hey, do your thing. Do your thing. And then the week of the fight, we got back together and I was in his corner for Merab Dvalishvili. A lot of people don't know. Henry, Dr. Rashid was there. Henry was injured for like 6 weeks. He couldn't wrestle before that fight. So he had about one good round in him.
Yeah.
And that's what after that, it's hard to train for somebody like Merab if you're injured. But Henry is such a competitor that I just mentioned he blew his ankle out before Marlon Mariah, so there was no telling Henry to cancel this fight.
Yeah.
And, he thought he overestimated on what he was capable of, probably. Maybe we underestimated Merab a little bit. Merab's a freaking machine.
Dope. Yeah.
Jesus. So, it was a combination of all. If it was me, if I could go back, I would say Henry should have already been champ against Aljo because I believe he won that 5th round. Your boy Aljo.
I'm not saying anything, bro.
But
Aljo, I do know certain fighters but I am a fan of the sport. So I'm not going to be like, oh, there's one. We've got to talk about this now as well. There's one where I'm not watching it for the sport, and that's Bilal Leon. And I love Bilal to bits. He's the loveliest human being, like one of the loveliest human beings I've ever met, and nobody deserves it more than him. And I'm only watching it to see him win. Like, other than that, I'm usually not too, like, whoever fights whoever, I want to see a good fight. Like, I'm not too interested. I won't be disappointed if, like, that Henry one, because obviously you're so close to Henry, you were disappointed he lost. To me, I was bummed that he lost that because of who Henry is and everything that he's achieved up to there, and what a way to kind of solidify, I can leave and come back and still, do you know what I mean?
Well, that's why I was bummed.
Yeah, that's why I was bummed.
That's the biggest. 3 years off, and he came back and fought for the title.
Yeah.
And went toe-to-toe with him. I thought he won the 5th round. If he won the 5th round, he won those. He at least won the 2 more rounds before that. But the one judge, even Aljo said he took the 5th round off. So how does he lose the 5th?
You got to finish it. In those situations, you got to kind of not leave it to the judges. I know it's easier said than done, but for both of them, in that kind of, because that's not a normal fight.
There was a lot of, you know what, Aljo, that was a huge rivalry.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't a normal fight. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of, if Henry just comes back and smashes him, then what's that saying about the rest of them? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there that much of a gap between him and them? Kind of thing. It was kind of personal on both sides in that way as well. So,
when I think about what Henry's doing at 135 now, I always think this dude can still go back down to 125 and be champion if he wants. He really can.
How do you feel about that? As a coach, as a brother, as a friend, we all know fighters, right? There isn't a time where they're like, I've had enough. So many of them have retired, and then they go to real life, and real life just isn't interesting enough for them anymore. Because they're so used to being in camps, they're so used to being under a certain amount of stress and pressure, they're so used to having something so big to look forward to. Whether it's a win or lose, it's adrenaline and the mind state and everything. That when do you and how do you say to a friend and a brother, not that you have to say this to Henry specifically or anyone else, as a coach, where do you kind of be like,
I would say if you're getting hit in the head a lot, you're going to wars and you're, if you're feeling the consequences of really going to war and kind of boxing a lot, not boxing, sparring hard in training, that affects you more than the fights. There's only a few fights. Henry doesn't even have 25 fights underneath his belt.
Would they admit that to you? Because, would they keep that to themselves and be like, I still need to fight?
Well, I'm so close to Henry, spirit, I would already know.
Yeah. You'd be able to
I can look at Henry, and if he spoke, when you're with fighters for that long, if he comes to the next day and he slurs one word, I already know it. I was like, wait a minute, what was that? You're slurring. What's going on here? Maybe we need to call it a day. But I'll tell you what, when we go to Paris, and he starts watching that wrestling, he starts getting that blood flowing, I'll talk to him there, and I think, you can't take away the legacy that Henry's had. Triple C, greatest combat athlete. That can't go away. But getting picked up by Merab and getting ran across the cage, man, that's my boy since 2000. He can't go out like that. You know, you got to come back. And if, it doesn't have to be at 35. It doesn't. He could go back down and be champion at 125. That would be a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you overachieved. You went to 135. You beat some of the greatest ever. You beat T.J. Dillashaw. You beat Marlon Moraes. You beat Dominic Cruz. There's nothing to shame on it. And you lost a 5-rounder to Aljo. At that point, was the greatest. So, you know, there's no shame in what he's done going up. But at some point, if we're not going to be fighting, if he doesn't want to be fighting these guys in the top 10 and be at ranked 9 and 10, man, go back down. Go get that gold again and go out on top.
Yeah, 100%.
I would love to see Henry go back down to 125 and go out on top. I'm not saying he can't do it at 135. I just think it's much harder.
I guess that's kind of one thing that you'd hope as a coach, that your fighters would kind of be genuine enough to figure out themselves. Because I'm sure as a coach, that's not a conversation you really want to have with anyone who you're close to, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a difficult one.
But that's why we're waiting until Paris.
Yeah,
we go to Paris and he sees that form.
I don't mean Henry in specific. I just mean in general, as a coach of someone that you've been with for so long. You mean
like is it? I think,
you know, to be able to say to it's a very kind of, because again, there's a lot of ego involved, right? And these are warriors, they're fighters and stuff. So it can't be an easy conversation to have with anyone that is in that stage and say, you know, because you don't want to see another Conor story. Don't get me wrong. Conor did so much for the sport. Like, he did a lot for the sport. But if you look at his last 5 fights and the talk that's coming with it, for me, it's sad to see. Like, I want Conor to come back, win, and leave. I don't want to see him keep coming back and losing, because even though he's done so much, he'll kind of leave a bad taste in the mouth of fans. Apart from those, the Conor tribe or whatever, they'll be like, oh, this guy again. Do you know what I mean? I do want Conor to come back, win 1 or 2, and be like, all right, guys, I'm out. Just to get that kind of...
Got to go out on top like GSP.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
It almost never happens. Henry did it. He went out on top, and then he came back.
Because he had
and
that
now you
thing.
Got to go.
He has that warrior spirit. And
you got to get it back in.
Does that ever end in a man?
Well, I think for Henry, the thing with Henry is, when he first came to the Olympic Training Center, I want to say he had 4 goals, 3 goals, Olympic champion, UFC champion, 4, a great husband, a great father. When he already completed the first 2, and he has 2 kids now, American and Henzo. He married a Brazilian, Ana Carolina. They're down in Brazil right now. And I think Henry's lived like 3 lives, man.
100%.
This is another life for him.
It doesn't end, because when Henzo was sitting in the same chair you were sitting in, and I said, so Henzo, when you decided to stop fighting, he said, who said I stopped fighting? I'm gonna fight next week. Like he's like, he literally wants to seriously, or is planning another fight, a full-on, you know, octagon fight. So it's like, I don't think it ever leaves.
But for someone like Henry, someone like a Patricio Pitbull, 3 losses in a row, they're done. I know them. He can't take another loss, I don't think. Patricio, he had lost 2. I guarantee, had he lost to Jeremy Kennedy, I think he would have been done. But he knocked him out, and now it's a new career again.
But some people's stock doesn't go down when they lose. Like Tai Tuivasa, love Tai.
Yeah.
He'll lose 3-4, and then his stock doesn't go down. Everybody still loves
charisma.
Tai. Do you know what I mean?
He's got charisma.
He's fighting now. He's here doing his camp.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He does his camps in Dubai.
When you talk about losses, or even talking about wrestling can be boring. Chael Sonnen, that's all he ever did was wrestling. But he would sell the heck out of a fight beforehand.
Yeah.
He would grab the mic and curse out the whole arena and say, Anderson, Silva, you absolutely suck. Vanderlei, I can't believe they stacked crap that high and like he was the best. He just did a 15-minute wrestle fucked somebody.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, and he stands up and he gets on that mic. So you could get the better you're on the mic, the less exciting you can be in the fight.
How important is it, and how much of this do you do with your fighters to condition them to know that the pot dries up? Meaning, financially, what they do with their money now is important, because the lifespan of a career of a fighter is not going to continue to make the money for. I mean, they already don't get paid enough.
Right.
You know, for what they're doing, it's crazy.
They got to use the platform. This is why I tell them you got to have a person. You had to have that personality. You got to be on social media nowadays, and you got to be able to promote yourself, because that's how Conor McGregor beat out Cristiano Ronaldo on the Forbes list to be the number 1 guy above LeBron James. An MMA guy above NBA and Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron and Christian. I mean, that's because he's the best promoter in the game. He could promote a fight. He could promote his own fights, and he could pick a fight. And, you know, that's part of it. But back to Broad Street Global. You know, what are these guys doing with the money that they do get? The little money or the lot of money that they get? Where are they investing in? And, you know, that's part of the idea of Broad Street Global is they're going to support their dreams on the way up. But then once they start making money,
educate them.
Let's educate you. Let's invest in Broad Street Global. Everything I saw them doing down there was amazing. I was like, man, and I'm investing in with them. So it's a great deal. And you got to be smart with your money. You know, you Bruno Bulldog Silva. He just knocked a guy out last week. That's his 4th $50,000 bonus. You know, where is he going to invest this money? You know, don't go out there and buy another BMW.
Yeah.
When just be smart with your money. You got to be smart. If you think NBA and NFL guys that get $1 million signing bonuses, and you're starting at 12,000, the NBA guys go broke. Mike Tyson lost $300 million. Matt, what are you gonna do with the $50,000 bonus that you do? Be smart with it. Fight smart. Invest smarter. Broad Street Global.
100%. It's difficult as well because you get a lot of athletes and fighters that come from poor backgrounds. So initially, the first thing they want to do is, I need to buy a massive house. I need to have the car. I need to have everything that I couldn't get before, right? So it takes a very level-headed fighter or athlete or someone around them who can be like, hold on, I know this is exciting, but...
You know what I have my fighters do? Before a huge fight? Huge! Like when they're about to make a huge payday? This is like on their way up, though. Before, you know, they're making... You know, at one point, I had a fighter who was fighting in a tournament for $100,000, but before that, he was making $10,000. But the tournament, you win the turn before you make the $1 million. I haven't had a PFL champion, but that I know of. Have I had a PFL champion? Yeah, I don't have a PFL, but you tell that fighter, call up all your family members a couple months before the fight, before you even they announce that you're going to be in a $1 million fight, $100,000, and ask to borrow some money.
See who comes through.
And who comes through. And then you won't be getting those phone calls, because when you start making money, everybody calls you up to borrow money from you. If you call them up to borrow money before you make that big payday, they won't be calling you.
That's an interesting one. I might make some calls after this podcast and just check some people out.
I'm telling you. Everybody comes out with a business. I got a business for you to invest in, you know? So, or an idea that they want, or they just need money. So I think that's huge. I think a lot of that, when fighters make money, it goes to people calling. They just, that phone. And they win. Everybody calls, but when you lose, the only one calling you is your mom. You know?
Yeah, 100%. So, if you had to highlight the two now, left and right hand, the most memorable time in your career and the worst time in your career, what would they be? the two moments. I don't mean like building a fighter up, like the specific moments, whether it be standing in a cage after winning something, or what are the two, best and worst?
I can describe a moment, and this is the greatest moment that any coach can ever feel. Fighter too. You're in the cage, UFC title, just finished 5 rounds. Bruce Buffer's making the announcement. You got Joe Rogan in there. Oh, Joe Rogan's not in yet.
Is there a particular moment you're thinking of now?
Yeah, it's 2-2. I mean, it's a split decision fight, and they're like, Demetrius Johnson, 48-47. Henry Cejudo, 48-47. Demetrius Johnson going for his 12th defense of his title. Has never been done. He's the GOAT, right? Henry Cejudo already knocked him out 2 years earlier in 1 minute. That moment right there is huge. The next one, AJ McKee versus Patricio Pitbull. It's because of the 2-2. No, you cannot duplicate that feeling. You can't.
The intensity.
To the intensity, you're like, is he going to win? And I've been on the other side too. I've been where they lost too. That's the worst feeling. When you talk about that feeling where it's 2-2 and it goes the other way. Or split decision, it goes the other way. But Patricio versus AJ was so big for me because he had lost by a head kick, knocked out or submitted after. And new generation of fighter. Do you know how hard it is to beat the new grab in any sport. You're 38 years old and you're going against the new phenom that's 22, 23 years old. That's the new to go. Patricio has gone through generations of fighters, from beating Patrick Coran, Daniel Strauss, Borix, who's an absolute killer, and then AJ McKee, who's the phenom, been in ever since he was 0-0. Patricio was the champ, and then he went and beat him 2-2 in a split decision, 2-2 going into the 5th round. That feeling is amazing. The other one would be when Patricio Pitbull knocked out Michael Chandler in 1 minute. That was revenge. That was like a rivalry of 3 years in the making, because Michael Chandler knocked out Patricky Pitbull. And when he knocked him out, he jumped on the top of the cage, and Patricio went right up to him. He's like talking shit, and he's like, "I'll fucking kill you and your family," something like that. And he didn't mean it like that, but Patricio took it like that. For 3 years, Patricio was burning up for this fight. And I'm like, okay, you gotta focus on wrestling, because he's an all-American wrestler. You gotta focus on wrestling. He's like, "Captain,
Patricio's like,
he dies.
He's
like, "Captain, I'm gonna knock him out on the first punch I throw." And I was like, whatever.
You're like, yeah,
we gotta train wrestling. Get your ass. We went to BioAccelerator 7 weeks out. He was in a wheelchair at BioAccelerator, and right after he got the injections, and in the wheelchair, he goes, I'm gonna knock him out with one punch. And I'm like, we're still going to the U.S. We're gonna train at Fight Ready, and we're gonna get you ready for Michael Chandler. First punch he threw, knocked him out.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. So those are some of the greatest moments. I mean, Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. I have so many. It's hard to pick a couple.
Okay, let's go worst of your career. Feelings.
We just Aljo versus Henry Cejudo, split decision. Was it split? It was split. Yeah, that one. Another greatest feeling was Leandro Ego versus Patricio Pitbull. They both won in the same day. Patricio came back, got his title, beat Jeremy Kennedy, and Leandro beat James Gallagher and got his title shot. And he's fighting Patchy Mix next in Paris in a few months in November. So that was another awesome day. That rarely ever happens. Patricky Pitbull winning in Ireland against Peter Queally, world champion, to become the first brothers in history I I probably have better moments
better
than I have
moments.
worse, to tell you the truth.
Okay, let's flip
But
that.
for me, every loss is the worst.
Let's flip that question because it leads on to my next question after this. Same question, but for life. Nothing to do with your athletes. Nothing to do with that. Your best and worst moments in life that come to your mind now. Obviously, I'm aware that there might be a moment which is one of the worst that you don't want to talk about, but that you can talk about.
Yeah, the worst would involve never seeing my. I had a girlfriend, we had a baby, and then when we broke up, I could never see she was 2 years old, and I could never see her again. So never, and I believed she was mine. So that would probably be. Then the DNA test showed different. So
yeah,
I think that would probably be I think I cried for a month straight. Lived in my car, crying every day. Lived out of my car. That's actually how I made it to Brazil.
wow.
I was like, I got to get out. I'm leaving this country. I was so depressed. And then I went to Brazil, and that's something that I always considered, like, nobody knew when I went to Tino Guerra back in 2011 what I was going through at that time. And I was just there to make champions. And we did. We had one of the #1 teams in the world. We had Minotauro, Anderson Silva was the champ. Junior Dos Santos became the champion. Rafael Feijão was the Strikeforce champion. Rony Jason was the Ultimate Fighter champion. Fabio Maldonado was there. And then the Pitbull brothers the Pitbull pups at the time were there as well. And I was training them all, and we were the #1 team in the world. And, 10 years later, when I tell them that was not like my worst moment in life, and they're like, what? Like, you were helping everybody out. You were creating champions. I was like, yeah. And it just goes to show you that even when you're at rock bottom, you can still help people out. And I was at rock bottom at that point. And that was 2011. Here we are in 2024 with, one of the best teams in the world still going strong. And, I kept scratching my way to the top until, yeah, that was definitely the worst. I think the best, I think it still comes down to what we just talked about.
Yeah.
You're talking about, I've been wrestling my whole life. I guess taking second in state, probably when I was at that age, it was the worst moment in my life. Not accomplishing becoming a state champ was probably that. But then I also wrestled that same person later on and got victory. And then a lot of people that I lost to that year when I was a senior in high school, when I met them in college, I beat them. I beat them all. So those were some great moments, some of the revenge. But for myself personally as an athlete, but when you talk about life as an athlete, I've been an athlete my whole life. So it relates back to the best moment would have been when I had a kid. It's kind of almost the same thing, best and worst moment. But then from an athletic perspective, it was those 3 moments that I just mentioned to you. So a split decision wins and winning world titles, and those moments are priceless.
Yeah,
There's, how many coaches don't have world champions, let alone champs? I have 2 champs. If Leandro, if Figueiredo wins right now, and he goes out there on August 3rd, the God of War goes out there and finishes Cheeto Vera, and he goes to fight for the title and becomes champion, that'll be another champ. So I think that's huge when we talk about Figueiredo. Now that we haven't talked about him here, that's why we're here in Abu Dhabi, is he's fighting Cheeto Vera, a guy who's never been finished. And he's the God of War, not the God of decision. In my opinion, this is the people's main event. It's between Umar and Sandhagen and Figueiredo and Cheeto Vera. Figueiredo, Fighter of the Year, 3-time world champion, moved up in weight. He had a quadrilogy against Moreno. That was historic. And now he's fighting Cheeto Vera, a guy who's never been finished, who's got to win over the current champion. In my mind, that's the main event. You know, Umar versus Sandhagen, that doesn't have the credentials of Figueiredo versus Cheeto. Cheeto's a pioneer for Ecuador. He's a legend over there. You know, this guy's fought some of the best fighters. He's fought everybody, Cheeto Vera. If Figueiredo can finish him, and he will, within the first 2 rounds, I think he jumps Umar. Whoever wins that fight, I think he's in front of them, especially if they go to decision. God of War, mark my words.
Well,
God of War will be the next UFC champion at 135. And what's interesting about Figueiredo is he's also 36. But Jesus, does that guy have genetics? Because I train Henry, and I train Patricio, and I paint Patricia. They're all 36 and 37 years old. And we go, oh, okay, I know you're going to get tired. Oh, let's take the night off because I don't want you to be too tired for tomorrow's practice. We're kind of like that with him. With Figueiredo, nope. That doesn't even, I feel like he's 25. He's got some genetics, boy.
Man, it's crazy when you think about that shit and that they're 36, 37 and how much they've achieved. And I'm 42 with a podcast just sitting there just chatting shit. Like,
you're changing lives too.
No, yeah, but you kind of forget, like, sometimes, because I have a lot of friends that are like footballers and stuff like that. And I look at some of them and I'm like, you must be 40 at least, bro. Like, how are you 21? Like, and you're doing this good right now.
What sports did you do?
I used to be a professional footballer when I was growing up.
What?
Yeah. Until the age of 20.
Wow, I didn't know that.
One thing that I
want to go back to. Did you see Leon kick that ball into the basket? Was that real?
I'm only talking about Bilal. That's the only name that I'm talking about.
Oh,
if you're talking about the other guy.
Okay, how about this?
If you're talking about the other guy.
How about this? Did you see him?
And I'm English, so do you know what I mean? You'd think it would be the other way around. But
did you see the... By the way, I love these microphones, man. All I see is gold, so...
I'll send you back with one, don't worry, bro.
Did you see the Bilal versus Leon Edwards in the elevator?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think it was great because look, the beautiful thing that I love about this sport is you have 2 people that just aren't scared of each other. And it's very rare you get that in real life. In real life, when you see an altercation in a bar or in a club or in the streets, you can tell one of them is super confident. The other guy's a bit, you can see the fear in some people. With a lot of these guys, it's just like, it's work, right? It's like, you're just a job, bro. Like you're my next project kind of thing. They don't get that instant fear. Obviously, there is people in the UFC where there are people. I'm sure Portan, certain people, when they're around him, they're like, yeah, this guy's a bit of a...
But I would say, like, for those 2 guys, those guys don't really... Bilal's he's talking a little bit, but not Leon. But I hate it on the week of the fight.
Yeah.
Paulo did this with Israel.
You think it was set up?
They're talking smack. It always happens in the elevator. You have no idea how many times you run into your opponent at the fight hotel. And it always happens in the elevator. But Paulo and Israel were talking shit for 2 years to each other, right? They're finally fighting. We're fighting on Fight Island here during COVID. They see each other and they hug each other.
Yeah. And you're like, what the hell is going on here, bro? Yeah.
And Countdown's watching or Embedded. I was like...
Yeah. It's not what we wanted to see.
They ended up
but the elevator
getting the rivalry again at the weigh-ins, and Paulo threw a white belt at him and whatever. And that got 7 million views, that weigh-in video. But for them to do that I want to watch. That sold me. If you weren't sold on watching 304, having those 2 in an elevator together talking smack, this close was awesome.
I feel like it was set up, even if they didn't know. But some people usher them to the direction they should go in. Yeah, cool, just take that lift there. And then on the other side, it's like, cool, just take that lift there. And then they kind of like...
I could tell you they for sure do that on The Ultimate Fighter. I was on The Ultimate Fighter 5 times as a coach. They for sure do those kind of setups.
That's what I'm saying.
They set you up big time.
And it's back down to the whole WWE thing that we were talking about creating that intense environment, right?
Mm-hmm. They create drama.
One thing I want to go back to. So we spoke about your worst time in life. And I wanted to talk about that because I'm very interested in 2 things. One, how you deal with mental health as a person who's supposed to be watching other people's mental health. because it's very easy as somebody who is focusing so much on other people that they don't take the time for themselves. So how do you do that first? And then after that, how do you support the mental health of your athletes? Because everybody has shit going on in their lives, even if they're making money or they're fighting or they have to whatever. So
I tell them to suck it up and quit being a pussy. But now, I could tell you a story, but it's wild. I could tell you a little bit. I did ayahuasca.
Okay, so did I.
I did ayahuasca in Brazil one time. So I kind of.
Let's talk. That's why we're here.
Well, I'm not getting too crazy into it, but I saw past lives, and we talked about it where, I had a daughter. I saw her there in like another dimension. It gets
wild, dude.
It gets wild. I thought I was a Viking in my past life. I was like, I called up Mark Madsen, who's from Denmark. He's one of my fighters. He's actually starting a promotion called Dominance FC. And I called him up, and I was like, I think I'm a Viking.
We're brothers.
Just like you.
Valhalla.
So, but that was getting hit in the head. I don't know if it's too much popular over here, but I was in the military, and a lot of soldiers come back, PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and Mike Tyson is working with the National Institute of Health on mushrooms.
Yeah.
And mushrooms is shown to regenerate neurons in the brain, and they're doing all this research about it, and it's proven to work. Ayahuasca is a different way. Henry's done the toad with Mike Tyson.
Nice.
Where it's like a DMT and like, so you'd have to get Henry on him and tell you those stories. But he's done that. He's like, what do you think? I was like, yeah, do it. See if they say anything about maybe you want to come back after you do it. I don't know. But I learned that ayahuasca doesn't give you what you want; it gives you what you need in your life. And a lot of people have really their life has changed. I have a girl in karate combat. I know you made that karate combat belt. I mean, that's awesome. I have 2 karate combat world champions. We didn't even talk about that. Luis Vitor Rocha, the Brazilian James Bond, and then Stephanie Oliveira is also the first female world champion for karate combat. She's also from the Pitbull brothers, and I call her the shaman of violence and peace. And shaman in Brazil is XVP. And she says the ayahuasca has led to her becoming a champion, and she had a lot of trauma growing up as a kid, and it's kind of helped her overcome it. So things like that. I'm a little outside the box. You ask me, I'm going to say go do ayahuasca and figure out which...
But ayahuasca, you got to be careful because it's going to elevate whichever type of person you are. So if you're a person that's naturally on edge and scared and kind of antsy and all that shit, that's going to elevate that 10 times. If you're a happy-go-lucky deep thinker or whatever, it's going to elevate that 10 times. So I've known some people to have some terrible trips on ayahuasca. Like they've seen the devil, they've seen the worst shit kind of thing. So you got to be careful of it. You have to be in a good place when you do that, I reckon.
Oh, I was speaking to the devil, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's where you got the glasses from. He was like, here, take this as a memento.
No, but the glasses. But if you want to get back to the glasses, the true story about the glasses was the Ultimate Fighter in Brazil.
Okay.
And the first week of the Ultimate Fighter, a fighter got hurt. One of the fighters, and he had. I want to say he had stitches, or maybe it was just a really black eye. I really can't remember. But it wasn't stitches because he was fighting in a couple days. But he had it. It was definitely swollen. And I was like, man, they're going to focus on that. It'll open up. So I said, you know what? I got these glasses in my thing. It was from Halloween, and it had a skull in the middle, and they were black at the time. I was like, if you wear those, everybody's going to focus here and not focus on here. Yeah. So I let him use them. And it kind of came part of the show. And then on The Ultimate Fighter, you train at different times, but in the same on the same mats. So we train, then we leave, and then the other people come in. And I had left my glasses, and back then I was wearing a bandana. You know, this was before I started wearing my One Monarchy, but I'm wearing a bandana back then. And I had left both of them. And Team Verdun had my glasses, so I'm looking for them. And I walk into our locker room, and they had like a voodoo seance going on with my glasses and my bandana and candles.
Wow.
And we ended up losing like 4 fights in a row after
You
that.
got cursed.
And then when I got my glasses back, we won everything. We won it all. So then the
like the lucky
glasses became part of the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I noticed when I started going out after the Ultimate, you know, we're on a reality show on TV in Brazil, on the biggest channel in Brazil. You're going to go out, right?
Yeah.
People. So then I noticed when I put the glasses on, everybody knew who I was. And when I took them off, they didn't.
No way.
So I was like,
He's like Clark Kent and
yeah.
Superman, right? Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute here. I was like, I think there's something to this. This could be like my business card.
Yeah.
So I started playing around with black. Then I wore some gold ones. I always had the skull. And then when I went with white just popped. It always popped, especially behind the black the cage.
Yeah.
It popped. So and I just like, all right, I need to be more extravagant. I wanted to be gold. And then I decided to put the GOAT here for the, you know, the greatest combat athlete of all time and the Bellator GOAT. So I train GOATs. So, and John Jones, you know, that's another GOAT. I just decided to put this on this to go with the white, but it all started with the Ultimate Fighter and the white. And I still want to get it more extravagant. I want to get it like a chain to hang down.
I'm going to speak to my boy.
Just,
my boy's got a shout out to Oscar and Frank. He's got the dopest sunglasses. Like, honestly, like I'm gonna.
Oscar and Frank. I need
Frank.
some custom made glasses.
Custom made.
But you know what? You know what? I've been in Vegas before. Someone just picked them right off my head at a club. Tap you here, pull it off here, and they're gone. You can't. I never found them again.
That's your fault. You were teaching us the defense to that today in class, so I don't know why you having that people doing that to you, bro. Literally
crowded.
You
Crowded
sell the
yes,
and then you get your glasses back and then put them on your head.
They were behind me,
listening to his own thing.
Pulled them right off my head.
Yeah.
So I've had.
He's used to getting rear naked chokes. So when someone just took the glasses, he's like, that was pleasant. It was nice. It was all right.
I mean, it was almost like a pickpocket.
Yeah.
They just pulled them right off my head. I never saw them again. So I've had to get.
It's because you have no lenses in them. You didn't notice that they were taken off.
Who said these are just clear? Who said there's no lenses? They're just clear.
Nah, they got no lenses.
Special.
Have they?
Yeah, of course.
No, I've seen you with no lens glasses.
Jibber jabber.
I've seen you with no. You can't tell me I haven't, because I'm sure that was one of the reasons I went, what's going on here, when I first met you. They had lenses in them?
Jabber, yes.
Every pair.
Every pair.
Wow, those are the clearest lenses I've ever seen in my life. In my head, I remember you wearing glasses without the lens in them, which is why I was like, this is outrageous when I first saw them.
That would be outrageous and insane.
That's what I'm saying. The first time I met you, I thought they didn't have lenses, so I was like,
do that?
Crazy, huh? But maybe it was your thing, bro. You were like, I'm going to just confuse the shit out of you guys and nobody knows, bro.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That would be something.
Maybe that's a new thing, huh? We've upped the game now, bro. You never know, bro.
Oscar and Frank,
we need some glasses with no lenses in them, bro. Let's do it. That's it. Of all time athletes from beginning till now, who would you have loved to have coached if you had the chance to? Not anyone that you've already coached, they're out of it. I'm talking about of all time fighters. If you had the chance to do an 8-week camp.
You know, John Jones would be it. I never, he's come to, I mean, like in the corner. I've never been in his corner. He came to Fight Ready, trained with Henry. I was there. We hung out, we trained.
No, but you specifically, as in you're their coach for that camp, for that fight. Completely, just you. You're the wrestling coach, not that somebody who's come and trained there or.
No, that's what I'm saying. coached him in certain times, but never in a
Not
camp.
fully, yeah.
Officially, like in his coach, in his corner. That would be one.
What would you change
because he's
while
the
we're there?
greatest.
What would you change about what he's doing, or what would you add to his arsenal?
Have him do ayahuasca.
I feel like he's
How
gonna
much
walk
can I
around
change?
with like one of the,
Obviously, I would-
the pestle and mortars that he's just sitting there in the club.
Hey,
just like,
John,
"You
come
should
to
try
Brazil.
this."
Come to Brazil. I'll take
Brazil,
you
bro.
to do some ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby.
That's it.
But, you know, wrestling, you know, what would I show? I'd show wrestling. You know, a lot of the things that I tell them is experiences. I think I always tell my, when you get around champions, you got to ask the right questions. Tell me a time when you were knocked down with a body shot and you had to get up and finish the fight. Tell me your mindset there. Tell me your mindset when you're down 2-2 going into the 5th round. Tell me your mindset when you're down 4-0 going into the 5th. You know, John had something like that with Gustafsson going into the 5th. You know, certain fighters, you know, you ask these questions to them. So I could give that experience of something with Henry or Patricio and give it to them. You know, as a coach, how many people have lived the experiences that we've just talked about?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, split decision wins against the greatest of all time and Demetrius Johnson. Split decision wins against A.J. McKee. Patricky Pitbull coming off a loss of Peter Quilly and then going and beating him in Ireland. Leandro Ego against James Gallagher or Nikita, what's Nikita's name from Fedor's team? Leandro submitted him. Like those, you know, talking about those experiences, these experiences, when you have somebody as good as some of the guys that we're talking about, sharing these experiences with them is kind of like they can think back and be like,
Yeah.
You know what, with Henry, when Henry learned from Patricio when he came down to Brazil was composure, not showing it in the face, being cold, stone cold. You know, some of the things that Patricio or Henry taught Patricio is being a competitor. Patricio was always a warrior. Henry was always a competitor.
Yeah.
And when I got them together, that was the perfect combination of competitor and warrior. Each one. Henry became more warrior, and Patricio became more competitor, and they both became champs. In the same month. It's never happened before. Never two champs alone has never happened, but it happened within 1 month of each other. I want to say in the same city, in Chicago. Nope, not in the same city. Henry was in Anaheim. But sharing experiences, of course, techniques and wrestling and be like, hey, this is what happened in this fight. At this moment, he did this. And but I'm always evolving as a coach too. So even here, we're at Team Khabib, you know, Palm Sports, which is treating us so great. Fawad is awesome, you know. UAE Warriors, shout out. And, you know, there's a coach there from Kyrgyzstan. He's showing me some amazing stuff. He's teaching John Tasha some amazing things right now. I can go back and bring that
And take it
to
back,
another fighter. Like
That's what I was
never
saying at the
seen it.
beginning of the episode. Just like having someone different, it makes all the difference because they're just doing stuff that sometimes you get used to your routines, right? So you get used to your style, and just that little sprinkle of dust on there just opens up a whole world.
And that rabbit hole. You go you show them one move, and it ends up being something completely different. And there's 3, 4, 5, 6 things that you learned when you were just planning on showing one.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I like that. And what if you do this? Because then they have their mind, and you and our minds gel.
Yeah.
And then we come up with something completely different. Yeah. It was different than what I showed them. And they put our minds together, my mind with his, and we just go through the roof and come out with something different. And we've done that with playing, you know, Wei Li.
I was just about to say the same question before we get into Wei Li. Same question, but female athlete.
Best female athlete I've ever seen is Wei Li.
If you had a chance to coach the camp of any female athlete of all time from martial arts, who would it be?
Well, the list is small because it just started
Yeah.
not too long ago. But when you think about GOAT, you think about Ronda Rousey, of course. You think about Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm,
Rose.
Rose. Yep. Who's that? Kayla Harrison's a fight. That would. Yeah, Kayla's such a. She's on the mic too. I like her on the mic as well, and she's such a beast. She's so good. But to tell you the truth, I gotta go back to Wei Li.
Wei Li,
Even
yeah.
I've already coached her
She's a
in
monster.
a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Wei Li is literally Jesus. She's the best.
She's
one
the
of the best
Terminator.
athletes I have
He literally is the Terminator.
ever seen.
Yeah.
Male or woman.
Yeah.
Male or woman. That girl trains like an animal. She's so good. She learns so fast. She is so fast. She is so powerful. Her striking, man, she's such a treat to watch, train, and to train her. So, you know, I just think she's the best right now. I think she's got a huge fight with Tatiana Suarez. You know, I've known Tatiana since she was at the Olympic Training Center, since she was taking, you know, world medals, and I think she was like 17. It was me, Henry, and Tatiana would always be on the computers together at the Olympic Training Center back in the day. I think that's going to be Wei Li's biggest test. You know, yeah, I mean, I don't say the other legends because I had to fight them as well. You know, Bethe Correia fought Ronda Rousey. She was the first Brazilian to fight Ronda Rousey, and that was like the fastest ascent in history to a world title was Bethe Correia. I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah, of course.
But this, if you want to hear that story,
Go for it, bro. It's not just me here. There's so many people here.
the story is, I don't know if too many people know this story, but in Brazil they do. So Bethe Correia was like, came to lose weight at the Pitbull brothers in Brazil. She was just a regular client taking classes, like Taibo classes, right? But we noticed she was really tough. Patricio and everybody knows she was tough, and she gets in the UFC after a few fights. They put her in MMA. I think she got to 5-0, 6. I don't remember. I didn't even know her, but she's fighting in Boston in the UFC. Pitbull calls me up. Hey, we need another corner. Can you come out and help us and translate and everything? You know, wrestling and be in the corner. I was like, yeah, I'll be right there. So I got to catch a flight, go out to Maryland, and I meet Bethe Correia. She's like, Captain, what does this mean when this fighter, every time she takes, her name was Jessamine Duke, takes a picture, and she does this? And I was like, what? I was like, I know what that means, but let me see the picture. And there's Rhonda, Jessamine Duke, Shayna Baszler, and I want to say Marina. 4 girls, and they were called the 4 horsewomen.
Yeah.
Well, American culture, we know what the 4 horsemen is. You know, it's back in the end of WCW, NWO. With Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard. And they were like the baddest team. These guys would be cracking people over their heads with chairs. 3 guys on, you know, beating up on one guy, and like they were like notorious. So I knew exactly what the 4 horsemen was, because when I was in high school, I had 3 other friends. Ray Gould was my best friend in high school, and there was 2 other guys that we were on the team in high school, and we were pretty much beating everybody in the district, right? So we started calling ourselves the 4 horsemen. And then we went to districts, and then only 3 made it to the regionals. And by the time we got to the states, there was only 1, me. I made it to the stars. So I know the countdown, right? Yeah. So I said, Bethe, I'm trying to explain to her what Ric Flair is and all that. She's like, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what pro wrestling is. In Portuguese, right? I was like, okay. Let's cut right down to it. When you win and you beat this girl, Joe Rogan comes in, you do this, and you go like this.
Yeah, yeah.
1 down, 3 to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what she did.
Sick.
She went out there and did that. On Monday, well, hold on. She went out, did that, but she really didn't know exactly what it meant.
Yeah.
So she does this and goes to shake Rhonda's hand, and Rhonda smacks it and turns around. And Betsy's like a big fan of Rhonda.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's like, "Why did she smack him?" I'm like, "Well, you just challenged her and her whole group." She's just like, "I did." I was like, "Yep." I said, "You said you want to fight for the title."
Yeah.
And like, so then on Monday she was booked against Shayna Baszler, the other part of the Four Horsewomen. She TKOs her. Well, the third girl isn't even in the UFC. She was Invicta. So she gets on 2 titles, on 2 fights, she's doing this.
Yeah.
I was like, you beat her. And when she did it, I started going, this, do this. And she went, I think she went, And she's like,
Nice.
I'm coming for that belt. So we're sitting at the press conference after she won, and Dana White receives a message from Ronda Rousey. And I'm translating for Betty. I'm sitting next to her, and he shows the message, and it says, "Don't let that bitch fight no one else. I want to be the one to take her 0. And Bethe Correia, within 2 fights of beating 2 of Ronda's friends, I don't even know if they had a win in the UFC.
Yeah.
I really don't. They were legends. I think Shayna Baszler was a legend, but at that point, she was a little bit older, and I don't think she had other than the Ultimate Fighter, I don't know if they had wins in the UFC. So Betty beat 2 girls with 0 wins in the UFC and got a title shot.
Sick.
Off of
that.
Off of my
Isn't the Four Horsemen also
pro wrestling idea.
Isn't it also like a biblical thing as well? Yeah. Like there's actually,
Of the apocalypse. Yeah.
They're coming.
So that's a quick story.
Yeah.
There's just one idea.
That's
and
crazy.
she became the first Brazilian ever to fight for a world title.
She
And
opened up the doors, man.
she was Ronda Rousey went into another universe, like superstardom. Then she was in Fast and the Furious. She was on the cover of Ring magazine. Holly Holm was like 20-time world champion, never made it on the magazine. Ronda Rousey is all of a sudden knocks out Bethe Correia in 34 seconds, and Dana White saying she could beat Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, you remember that shit? Yeah.
I mean, look how much one idea just promoted really. Ronda Rousey went into another universe over this idea as well. And MMA she became mainstream over that idea of Bethe Correia. She hated Bethe Correia so much. And that was the idea. I told Betty, I was like, Betty, you're going to have to get in her head, because if she takes you down, she's going to submit you.
Yeah.
Your judo, your jiu-jitsu's not that good. You want her to knock your teeth out.
Yeah.
That's how much you want to get in her head. And she did. And I think it was at least a year before they fought, because Betty had eye surgery. Had to get eye surgery. And every time that Ronda Rousey fought, Betty was on that Twitter talking shit.
Trolling.
And talking about, that's when she went on that 15, she was beating everybody within 15 seconds. And she went on that roll, and Bethe Correia was just lighting her up. And I think what happened was she had crossed the line, according to Ronda. I mean, that she didn't know, but she's like, when I beat you, I hope you don't do something to yourself, right? And we didn't know it. She didn't know it. But, Ronda's dad had committed suicide. And so she took that personally. She's like, I am going to kill you. And she did. She went out there. But the idea, Bethe Correia's really strong point was boxing. So her only chance was on the feet. So we had to get Ronda to stay on the feet. That was our only chance. But she got knocked out and made Ronda put her in it. She never got another win.
Yeah.
Bethe Correia was her last win. She lost. The next fight was Holly Holm, and the next one was Amanda Nunes.
Then it was WWE.
So Bethe Correia was the last win of Ronda Rousey's career, and it all started with an idea of
the 4.
just like that. So I've had few of those ideas that have led to world titles. Patricky Patricky Pitbull fought Peter Queally in Ireland, also off of an idea that I had. So there was a press conference in New York. This is right before COVID. And Patricio's fighting Pedro Govallo in a $1 million tournament from SBG. You had James Gallagher there. You had Peter Queally there. And the Pitbull brothers had a huge rivalry. Had a rivalry with SBG. In my mind, at that point, Patricio was champ, and the original champ was Conor McGregor, and I always wanted that fight to happen. We never got that cross promotion thing. Could still happen, but hasn't happened yet. Now, always like we gotta push SBG versus Pitbull or Pitbull brothers, because eventually that will lead to
that. Will trickle down.
One.
Yeah.
And you had all these AJ McKee. So Leandro was there. You had all these guys on the press conference. Most boring press conference I ever saw.
Yeah.
These guys hate each other.
Yeah.
Most boring press conference. Nobody's asking about the rivalry. Yeah. Nobody's there. Everybody's like, I'm in the best shape of my life and all this. I was like, no way. This press conference is not going to have any drama. So I had sent a message to one of the journalists who owed me a favor. And because he had called me up when Henry beat Demetrius, and I gave him an exclusive interview with him. I was like, I'll make this happen, but you're going to owe me one, like the mafia. Like, you can't, if I come to you.
One day I will call for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot ask me why.
It was exactly like that. So I sent a message to this journalist, and I said, he's actually from England. And I said, hey, you got to ask this question. He's like, tell us about this rivalry between you and SBG, something like that, right? And he's like, I can't ask that because they already asked the question. They never let me ask two. So I said, all right, let me handle this. And I go up to the Bellator guy with the microphone. He gives him, hey, you got to give him that microphone because I have a feeling that we're going to get some drama here. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, just give him the mic. Trust me. He gives him the mic. He asks him the question. And Leandro Ego's there, and he's humble. So I knew he wouldn't stand in the middle if he knew why. So I told the guy next to him named Jucal, I sent him a message. I said, Jucal, go tell Leandro to stand in the middle of the aisle. He wasn't on the press conference. He was in the arena or in the press conference in the audience. And I said, have him stand in the middle. So he goes and stands in the middle, and Patricky says, what's this rivalry between you and SBG? And Patricky's like, he asked Patricky the question. He's like, yeah, we have a rivalry. I want to know why James Gallagher is running from Leandro Ego, right? And Leandro's standing in the middle. And then Peter Queally jumps in. And why are you talking about my teammate? I'm your weight class. And then they start going at it. And he's like, I got you this job. I'm the one that said I wanted to fight you, Patrick. And they're going at it. First fight after COVID was who? Peter Queally and Patricky Pitbull. And Peter Queally cuts Patricky with an elbow, and they stopped the fight. Well, Peter Queally was probably ranked 13th. Patricky Pitbull was ranked number 1. But who was the champ? Patricio Pitbull. Well, Patricio's not going to fight Patricky.
Yeah.
Well, how's Patricky ever going to win a world title? My goal for the Pitbull brothers was always to get the first two brothers in history, to have both the Pitbull brothers become world champions. And then Patricio Pitbull probably did the most unselfish thing in the history of MMA. He gave up his belt.
Oh, wow.
You know how many people want to be world champions? They would give their left arm to be a world champion. Patricio Pitbull gave up his belt, knowing Patricio, number 1 seed, would fight for the belt against somebody. Well, who does he fight? Who? Peter Queally.
Sick.
Peter Queally, 13th ranked at the time, against Patricky Pitbull, and Patricky had lost to him
Yeah.
And they made that first fight because of the rivalry that we created. And Patricky went on to become world champion. And then the history was made.
The rest is history, man.
That's probably one of the another greatest moment in MMA history, and probably as a coach, is to have the two Pitbull brothers as world champion, which was my goal from the get-go, since I've been at the Pitbull brothers, is have them both world champions, and we made it happen. And that was like one of the greatest moments in MMA history, is to have two brothers simultaneously as world champions. And Patricio Pitbull gave up his belt and made it happen. And we were in enemy territory. So that's you've never seen. A lot of people never talked about that. That is the most unselfish act in MMA history. Name one other person that's given up their belt to give for someone else
given up
without an injury. I know Yuri did it. We also coached Yuri, was another guy, and then and Yuri's a whole nother. Yuri's exactly as you see him. He's exactly like that. And then what's the other guy? Jamal Hill. He gave up his belt, but they were injured. Patricio wasn't injured. Patricio was a champ, and he gave up the belt, leading his brother to fight for the vacant belt.
Sick, he knew, and he had belief in his brother, and he knew that he was going to win it, man.
True,
crazy.
True. It's one of the greatest things I've ever saw and witnessed and been part of. So, I've had some great moments when you talk about that. There's still a lot more to come.
That's crazy. A lot more to come. Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, brother. We need to get you to that hotel before they close. Wait,
the hotel's closing?
No, I'm joking. Zia, what are we on time?
That's it?
1 hour 40.
That's it.
I mean, that's it, bro. This guy's got like 9 kids he needs to get home
Jibber
to, bro.
Nah.
Don't worry, we'll get another episode in after when you bring, when you come and tell me that thing you won, right?
When Figueiredo gets this,
that's it, gets the title shot.
This title
that's
shot,
it, bro.
And becomes becomes number one contender.
No, it's going to be a sick fight, and looking forward to watch that one. I'm going to be there as well. But what we got next? We got Warriors to go and watch.
Yep, we'll be there to watch Fouad and the UAE Wars. You know who I really want to watch is that Lisa Zimmo?
Zimmo, I think Zimmo, yeah.
Zimmo, I met her at Khabib Jam, and she could sell a fight, and I like that, and I'm really interested in watching her fight. It's her debut. She's an IMMAF world champion out of GBTT.
London, yeah.
So the Shell Shock is her nickname. I like that. So I'm interested in seeing that. I've been to a couple of UAE events. I don't think I've ever seen a woman fight. So.
And those ones? No,
yeah.
In Warriors there's been a few.
There is?
There was, I think the last time, no, not that last time.
Yeah, you know what? These fights end early. I think last time I only made it to
last time you came there with like
2 fights.
4 minutes left of the event, and you were like, yo, I'm here. They were like, yeah, we're going
No wonder
home, bro.
I didn't see any of them.
No, we'll get there early, and then
I'm interested. I'm interested, in watching. Turkey LL Sheik had the UFC in Saudi Arabia, and he said, I want to bring women next time.
That's
so
it.
I thought that maybe this was like the first time UAE had it. But UAE's a little bit, they're ahead of the curve here. So that's awesome.
It's on, bro. We got a lot to look forward to in the next 2 weeks. We got
probably
Manchester,
the greatest,
Abu Dhabi.
Probably the greatest week in MMA history, thanks to Palm Sports with UAE Warriors on Saturday, UAE Arabia on Sunday. And
UFC on
UFC
Saturday
Abu
as well.
Dhabi with Figueiredo.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So
that's it.
The UAE on Saturday is going to be, man, the talent is so good in UAE Wars. You know, that Magomedov from Khabib's team. He's in the main event. I think he's from Kazakhstan as well. I was speaking to him down there. I'm really excited to watch his fight. So I was telling them, I was like, these guys are next level. There's not too much difference from the UFC and them.
Vincente? Is it Vincente? The Brazilian that was the UAE Warriors. He's
a champion?
He's in UFC now. Vincenzo? Vinicius. Yeah.
Vinicius.
He came from UAE Warriors as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, these guys.
Umar came from UAE Warriors. So thing I like about them is they're happy to kind of let their guys move on. Most promotions are like trying to kind of hold them and keep them there. So I like the fact that it's a stepping stone for people to go wherever.
Well, I wouldn't consider UAE Warriors a stepping stone. I consider them to be a right up there. Talent-wise, they're right up
but for
there.
sure. But what I mean is like they're taking on a lot of fighters that other promotions wouldn't give the chance to. And then they're turning out to be killers. Do you know what I mean? So I like that about them.
Me too.
For sure.
Real exciting to watch those fights.
Let's hit it. Let's get down to the hotel. We need to get some food as well.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you around, dude.
Jibber.
And we got a lot more to do. And episode 2 will be coming.
Let's do it.
We got to do it for sure. Is there anything you feel like we missed out?
What do you think, Dr. Rashid? What did we miss?
What did we miss? Anything we missed out?
What did we miss?
Anything important?
Tune in, stay alert, be ready.
Life lessons. He's just giving you doctor life lessons, bro. Like it's like eat your apples, be healthy.